The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning. I'm Art Silva, and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. This show is dedicated to your mental wellness and how you can help yourself navigate the daily highway of life. Our show is brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland Committee. Joining me today is my friend from Family Services, Stacey Norton. And good morning, Stacey.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Good.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. It's a beautiful day, and let's talk about our topic today is going to be parenting. As you know, next month we're going to be getting into Child Abuse Month. So this week we want to start off our discussion and kind of have it continued on parenting. There's a lot going on with parenting. So let's start off with, let's define it. How do we put the scope on our topic?
There's a lot of different definitions probably for parenting. I know it is a difficult job. It's an important job, and it's probably one of the few jobs that we do not get formal training or education for. But parenting, I think my definition is to be a positive leader and a teacher. I think parents have multiple roles. Sometimes you're a nurse. You know, there's different things, but I think the important thing is to be a positive leader and teacher in your household.
Well, that's like with Dr. Spock. I remember when I kid, Dr. Spock was the reigning voice, so his definition was, you have to civilize your child for society. So I kind of, ooh, that's pretty big scope there, you know, but that kind of encompasses everything you do as a parent. So let's talk about some type of parenting. You know, first of all, you hear a lot today about the snowplow helicopter parents. And I can see where the care is there, but does that create a problem with the child?
Yes, I believe it does. I think it's really important for parents to instill courage in their kids. Helicopter parenting causes discouragement in kids. Kids have the belief that mom and dad don't think I can handle things. So it causes insecurity for them. So it's not... If you can avoid being a helicopter parent, you want to give your children freedom within limits, but you want to also be able to begin preparing them to make good choices. So at some point, they're going to be able to live on their own, and they aren't going to need you to take care of everything.
You know, it's like putting those parameters down, and I think failing at tasks is part of that education of learning and growing up. So I think you have to, like you say, give that child the opportunity to go in whatever it is, and then counsel them or help them from that point on. Because kids are all different, and they all at different ages. They handle things a lot differently. So let's start off, first of all, with the parenting. Let's say take a new baby. Let's say the first 2-3 years of parenting. Let's talk about that. What are some of the things you see there with those parents?
I think some of the most important things in those early years are nurturing and helping the baby feel secure and safe and provide stability for the children. And I think it takes off from there. Those early years are very, very important. And if they have that feeling of trust and security and stability, they're able to take off and meet their developmental needs.
You know, there's early ages, and you talked about this previously. There is no formal training for parenting. We usually pick up from the experience that we had as children and what we've witnessed, and that can be good or bad or absent. So now when you go forward and you take a look at these younger children, what's the stress on parents with the young children?
I think every family has different circumstances, so there is stress. There can be financial stress. There can be stress of maybe having a sick person in the home, maybe a parent that's ill or a child. There's some parents that have to maybe in the early years of a child's life, they're at the hospital and they have other kids at home, and that's really stressful. So I think every family has circumstances that come up that can cause stress, and that is a big factor in parenting.
Well, I think one thing, we don't see the traditional family anymore. That seems to have changed. I haven't seen that over my lifetime, especially with with women going into the workforce, and you have dual working incomes, dual working people. So the kids, and a lot of that falls back on the school. So it really has changed. So I think if you sat back and say, I had a chance to stay at home, get my kids together, went to school. I was fortunate in that, but not everybody is. And what happens to the child that doesn't have let's say we go into a single family. How is the child raised? Is there an absence that creates a problem later on in their development?
Yes, that can happen. Support is really important for parents, whether you're a unit or you're a single parent. Parents that have grandparents, have aunts, uncles, have other support people, that really, really is important for parents, because if I have to work late, I can call my sister, or I can call my mom and say, can you pick up, my child? And
that extended family is very important, and I think that's something that has really changed over time. I got another parenting challenge question for you. Okay, we talked about the young ones. How about young adults who move home? What type of challenge does that present for parents?
That can be a challenge depending on, I think it's really important that parents have, and the adult child have respect for each other. You set down, what your expectations are, and the goal is for the child to have a plan to be able to live independently again. But that can be difficult because some young adults, I'm 18, I can do whatever I want, I'm going to do whatever I want, and it can cause a lot of conflict.
Going back to the economic problems we had in 2008, at that time, a lot of young adults were moving back home, living at home. It does create a problem, and for both parties. And you want to get encouraged and get them out. But the family unit, I think you always say to your kids, this will always be your house. You can always come here. But again, it gets back to that starting point. How do we get you ready for society? And not all launches go well. So can we talk about when things don't go well in families and like that, when we have those types of situations where you have that type of built-in conflict that we aren't working towards a solution?
Yes, and I think that's sometimes where an outside party, I think that's where therapy can help, because sometimes when you're in the situation and you have all of the conflict going and you're doing the same thing you've done over and over, and the child does the same thing over and over, sometimes having an outside party kind of look at the situation and maybe give you different ideas can be helpful.
Therapists is certainly, we recommend that, because a lot of people just get thrown into this parenting deal. But another support group out there that I am at least somewhat familiar with is MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers. I've known some women that have had that type of deal, and at that preschool age, they kind of get together as a support group and get their kids through, and that's really, really good. So I think once you find that common need and that you really want to band together all for the interest of the child, those things are very, very, very supportive.
I agree. Yes, I think it's really helpful for moms or dads to, in a group, be able to see that I'm not the only one experiencing some of these frustrations. And sometimes you can get some tips and learn a few things too.
I'm Silva, and I'm here with Stacy Norton from Family Services, and today we're talking about parenting on when things aren't going well. Stacy, you brought up a good point. You just mentioned both parties involved. A lot of men are getting into parenting right now, mom, dads. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
I think that's really interesting. I know a couple of guys that are doing that, and they're doing it very well. I think a lot of things in society that have changed that make this much more acceptable. And I think following that role, if you feel really comfortable in it, you can really bring out the best in your child, but just in a different way.
Yes. And I think moms and dads have different roles, and dads for sure can provide nurturing and stability. They can play with their kids. They can parent as well as, a single dads can parent as well as a single mom.
Well, we're coming up on our break right now, so don't touch that dial. We'll be right back here with Things Aren't Going Well right here on 1360 KSCJ.
Let's face it, that happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Welcome back to Where Things Aren't Going Well. I'm Art Silva, and with me today is my friend from Family Services, Stacy Norton, and we're talking about parenting. And when we left off, we have that traditional idea of families like, Ward and June Cleaver, and let's talk about that, because that's the impression you kind of grow up with. And what do you think about the traditional family?
Well, what's funny about Leave It to Beaver is if you really pay attention to the show, that the boys were a lot of times in the bedroom waiting for Ward to come home and discipline them. But I think what people like about the show is that the parents were able to provide for the kids what they need as far as security and stability and safety. It just showed that there were family meals and that they kind of knew what the boundaries were for them and what was going to happen if they made wrong choices.
Now, we just talked previously about dads as fathers. So you wonder going forward, what would that series have been if June hadn't been there? It was just Ward and the boys, But today, that happens a lot. And I think that role change is really good. I think about children that have grown up with a very strong mom, but no dad influence. And what are some of the problems that you've seen there with some of the children?
What I see is that there's mourning with the kids. They miss having a dad in their life. And I think dads are really important for both male and females, sons and daughters. For daughters, that's their first example of a man. And if they have a dad who loves them and respects them and shows them that they deserve respect, then in the future, they're going to make those choices in their relationships. For boys, I think dads are especially important in helping them learn how to manage their anger and frustration. Dads just have that authority that if they're not violent, they're able to help their kids by communicating, be able to talk about what's going on and not have temper tantrums and outbursts. So, and again, dads are really important for boys. They are a role model. If they work hard and they are a positive example to their boys.
That old role of dads of being banker, spanker, coming home, I think it's evolved a lot. Dads are, I think, more of a coach nowadays. Try to get through things and try to work with the kids and be more part of their lives and what they're trying to do. I see that, but, when we talk about dads, and as important as dads are, we have to come back to the mom. Moms are the central part of that family. You don't believe me? Look at Mother's Day. What did dads get on Father's Day? We celebrate Mother's Day. So Mother's the original inventors of multitasking. So let's talk about mom and the family. Some of the good things and some of the problems and stresses that moms face.
Okay, yeah. Both parents have important roles and have, different important things that they do. I think moms, especially when children are little, a lot of times they are the ones that are caring for the children as far as, maybe they're breastfeeding. They have that attachment with the kids.
The bonding period there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when kids are really little, they really are attached to their moms and may have some insecurity when they're separated. And as time goes on, that changes. They always have that attachment with mom, but then dad has, a really important role too. I think moms that have a lot of stress, maybe some mental illness issues, I think that can cause issues for not only the kids, but the parents too, because they feel guilty.
That stress you talk about, that just builds up over the course of a day. I know that when my children were young and I came home from work and I said, well, I'll run down the store and go, no, I'll go, my wife would say, just to get that break out of the house, that communication with other adults after a while. And this is really at that early age. So when does it come time for mom to push more of this child rearing onto the dad?
Well, ideally, they both have a pretty active role. Early on. I do think things have changed. I do think I see that dads do take more of an active role in the parenting than they used to. It used to be, mom stayed home, and back when you were growing up, and even me.
Mm-hmm.
So that has changed and evolved. And I think, kids learn to adjust to what their circumstances are, as long as I really think safety, stability, and security are really, really important for all kids, no matter what their circumstances are.
We talked earlier about the stress, particularly with young moms, new to the process, not a course to take. But I was reading something the other day on a different kind of stress that young moms go through. Diaper stress. It's getting down to, they were making decisions on do we eat food or I buy diapers? And the diaper stress was, I can allocate diapers, I can't allocate food.
Yes.
So it was really interesting, these things that are coming out that I got to plead ignorance. I never knew, maybe they were there and I wasn't aware of it. But in balancing that budget and providing for needs and all the stress that can provide, have you seen that with some of your clients where it comes from the transfers from the parent to the child, and what we can do to get upstream and try to help that?
Yeah, absolutely. I see that. And that's the security, that there's financial instability that causes insecurity. There can be food insecurity. And basic needs are, we all need to have our basic needs met. So when you are hungry and you can't afford things that you need, it causes high stress.
We know that we have a food pantry in our Siouxland Family Center, and that's a partner agency with United Way, and that's over in Dakota City. And we tend to see the end effect of this, trying to get upstream. And what can we do with parents? And I'm sensitive to single parents, because when you have both parents, one can give the other a respite. They're both involved. They both understand the needs. They both understand the trends going on right now. What are the issues right now? Because they continue to change. But when you have one parent trying to do this, how can we put together a success formula? What's important to that single parent's success raising those child?
Well, we're fortunate in Sioux City. We have a lot of resources. I have a list of all the food pantries and then personal products pantries that you can get diapers, that kind of thing. A lot of the agencies around Sioux City that work with children, like the Crittenden Center, Community Action, those agencies, they're really good resources for helping single parents. I think as a therapist, if I'm working with a single parent, my role is to help them reduce stress, to expand their support systems and reduce their stress, so they are able to then have their basic needs met and be able to enjoy their children as they're raising them.
And it's not, asking for help. Things can become absolutely overwhelming. And when it gets to that point, there is help out there. check with an agency. Seek. We can certainly help you at Family Services, 293-4900. But there is help out there. So please, if you're going through this, because not only are we interested in the individual, the parent, we see the effect on children. And so if we can help the parent and keep that family unit strong, which is what we do, our motto, our mission, improve the lives of children and families. We see these things day to day, and we're here to help. So sharing those resources that you mentioned, but it all starts with the individual asking for help. Stacey, I want to thank you for sharing this with us today. It's been a great show. We're going to start wrapping it up. We always try to use a little bit of sense of humor at the end of our show, because God gave us a sense of humor for a reason. So this is for your mental wellness. And today's joke is, did you hear about the two silkworms that were in a race? They ended up in a tie. Okay, with that, I want to thank you for joining us this week. Again, thanks to Stacey. I want to thank our listeners. Give a shout out to Craig Feste, Kevin Knudsen, and Scott Tucker. Next week, we'll be back on When Things Aren't Happening right here at 7 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be kicking off Child Abuse Month. So peace and happiness to you. Thank you for joining us, and right here on 1360 KSCJ.
Happy trails to you. Until we meet again, happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then, happy trails to you.